I would just say, don't be afraid to understand who you are, because that's a scary part for a lot of people. When you tell people, hey, just be you, a lot of times people, women are like, I don't want to because I don't want anyone to see that. But it's okay for people to see you, and it's even okay if they have an opinion about you that's not favorable, because that doesn't change who you are, and that doesn't change the way that God sees you. So show up, be strong, be that unique, authentic woman that God created you to be, and you can conquer the world.
Hello, dear listeners. It's that time again when we stroll through the paths of ambition, desire, and success. Welcome to the Dare to Declare podcast, where we explore the enchanting world of giant manifestors who've turned their visions and goals into the stuff of legends. I couldn't help but wonder, how do some people create the lives they've always dreamed of? Is it the magic of manifesting, the power of perseverance, or perhaps just a dash of serendipity? Well, dear friends, grab your coffee cups because we're about to spill the tea on fascinating journeys of those who dare to dream big and make it happen. Join me as we sip on success stories and ponder the ever-enticing question, can we all manifest our dreams into reality, or is it just an urban fairy tale? I'm your host, Debbi Sluice, and I'm here to guide you through the labyrinth of achievement with heart and soul. Ready to dare to declare? Let's get started. Welcome back, everyone, to this amazing episode with my guest, Stephanie Brown. She's a seasoned leadership coach. She empowers high-achieving Christian women to lead authentically in male-dominated industries, breaking free from self-doubt and aligning their careers with their faith. With a strong foundation in faith and over 36 years of corporate and startup experience, she provides personalized guidance to help women overcome self-doubt, break free from limiting beliefs, and achieve their full potential. Through faith-centered coaching, strategies, and community building, she helps women live purpose-driven lives, personally and professionally. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Well, I'm excited to dive into this topic today about, well, really two things I'm most curious about talking to you is about working in a male-dominated industry and what that takes. And then secondly, as a believer, as a Christian. And so we met at an all women's conference in Florida, and you were there, I believe, with your sister. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And so leaning into all of that beautiful feminine energy, which was amazing. And it was a Christian conference. So I wonder what made you want to be in an all-female women's conference that also was Christian. What were you looking for through that event?
Well, part of it was networking,
Mm.
because there are many different, female events for networking. Some are Christian, some are not. And a lot of times I have been to a lot of conferences for women leaders, but it doesn't always provide the faith aspect of it. So I was excited to have a conference that had women and women of faith and women that are high achieving, that are entrepreneurs and doing similar activities that I'm doing. So that was really exciting to be in the room and have that type of energy.
I agree. I agree. And we'll give a shout out to Judy Weber, who organized that.
Yes.
Yeah. So does she continue to be your coach? I think you've worked with her in the past, right?
Yes, she's still my business coach.
Oh, amazing. So tell me a bit about that. So how long have you had your own personal coach?
So I met with Judy, and I'll quickly share a quick story. So I actually met Judy at a coaching event in Allen, Texas, and she was teaching a class. And at the time, I wasn't really interested in getting another coach. I'm also part of the John Maxwell team, so I have those coaches and have had them for probably about 12, 13 years. And so I've used them as coaches. But Judy was unique in her approach. She was unique in her style. And honestly, at first I thought, no, she's too high energy. I'm not a good fit. I'm never going to I won't get accepted into her program because she only accepts certain people. And it must have been at least 2 or 3 years when she was offering a small mastermind for free, and I decided to join and listen in. And at the end of it, it was like God said, "This is it. This is your coach." I had been praying for a coach and said, "Hey God, I need a coach. I need a good coach. And I had my criteria. I One of the main things were that I wanted someone who was a woman of faith. And it was hard to find. I had looked at several different ones, and I'm like, okay, we'll see. And that day, it was like, this is your coach. And so, I started working with Judy and building my program and learning a lot of things that I didn't know because I started my business and didn't really know how to start a business. And the startup helped me to do that, which was great. But I still needed a coach who understood, number one, who I was and what I wanted to do. And so Judy has done a lot of that and continues to do that in our relationship.
That's beautiful. And now you get to embody that for others, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Because it
yes,
is hard.
so it is very hard. And no one tells you that. You look at it and you see, people that are successful and you think, okay, this is pretty easy. This is what I'll do. But there are so many pieces that you don't think of. And those pieces may look simple, but they may be a little bit complex.
Well, anything that is worth having really is, right? I
Absolutely.
always say it's simple, but it's not easy.
Right. Right.
We all know what we need to do. It's simple, but it's about the daily habits of persistence towards that beautiful vision and goal. And something else you said, the reason that you went to that conference is to find ambitious Christian women, business women, and surrounding yourself. And you said it was, also hard to find that in a coach. What's been your experience even finding a community like that? Like, is that something now that you're seeing more of, or do you still find it challenging to surround yourself with ambitious Christian women?
It's still somewhat of a challenge, which is one of the reasons I offer that to my clients. So yeah, I still find some, but there still seems to be that element that's missing. So either they may advertise it as a Christian conference for women, but it may be focused on something else. So it'll may draw me there, but when I actually get there, it's still not really what I'm looking for. Or there may be a conference that is more geared toward Christian women, but it's more of maybe a worship conference or a prayer conference where I want to, talk more about the business and some of the challenges of being a Christian and a woman in business and entrepreneurship and all of that. So trying to find that harmony between all of that is very unique.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I can see both sides. I have the exact same experience. So maybe it's something that we need to do together
Yes.
because we can't, it's like somebody should do that. Well, maybe that somebody is us, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So because we know what that it is. There's a gentleman, I can't think of his name right now, as an author, and he wrote a book called Lead Like It Matters. Lead
Wow.
like it matters. What's the it? And it sounds like you know what it is, what it feels like, and what it is when you walk into that conference or that retreat. That it. So good.
Absolutely.
So talk a bit about your experience, like in your bio, it says, 30 years of corporate experience and also startup. But being in a male dominated industry, and I know we've talked before and you've shared some stories around being underestimated, perhaps
Yes.
not, and even in this day and age where we think people are enlightened, that it still can be a challenge. Can you talk a bit about that?
Absolutely. So I think, first is the fact that going to a male dominated industry was expected when I started. It's been years ago when I started working in the male dominated industry, and it was an expectation that I believe that I just accepted. It's like these companies are run by men, and you walk in hoping that you do your best, you work hard, and that you will be able to, go up the ladder and you'll be accepted. But that was part of the I guess you could say kind of a learning curve for me because I didn't know that I kind of had these beliefs that this is the way it is and this is the way it will always be until I got further into my career. And whatever the expectation was for women, I accepted that. It's like you're supposed to come in, you'll fill these particular jobs. You'll work for men and it'll be XYZ. You're not supposed to speak up. your quote unquote feelings are hurt, etc. And so part of my career, I just went along with the norm and what I thought was expected until one day, and I can't say it was just a moment or whatever. I think it was me growing and understanding who I was as an individual, who I was, especially in Christ, that, hey, this isn't the norm. It may be the norm, but it's not something that I have to expect. I've shared the story before with others. There was a significant moment where I didn't realize that I had felt that I was invisible. And it wasn't until President Obama became president. And I'm not a political woman. Um, I don't, I don't really discuss parties or anything, but that particular election it was historical for me as a Black female. And it wasn't even just that. It was that when they announced that he was president, there was something inside of me that said, first of all, I didn't think that would ever happen. Secondly, it was something inside of me that said, now they will see me. And I remember saying that out loud. Now they will see me.
Mm.
And I didn't even realize that I felt unseen until that moment. And the next morning, I opened my door and I said out loud, today, the world is going to see me. I walked into a CVS, purchased a newspaper, looked at the cashier and said, good morning. She looked back at me and said, good morning. And she probably had done that all along, but today it was different. I had a mind shift. I had I had confidence that had been inside of me, but I was allowing it to come out. And so I began to, to carry some of that over into my workplace and said, hey, today at work, they're going to see me and I'm going to be who God created me to be. And yes, it was challenging. I can remember of times sitting in a meeting right before I had to get on a plane and go see my sick dad, and I was being drilled and drilled by one of the executives, and it almost brought me to tears. But I had made up my mind that I would not cry over work, and I said, if you do, then it's time. Then you're going to leave. And at that point, I'm like, there were tears, but they didn't fall. They were kind of, in my eyes, I'm like, you are not going to cry over this. And I'm like, if you ever cry, then you're going to leave. And I never did because I'm like, you were meant to be here. God opened the door. He put you in this company for this reason. Because I prayed, God, I had several resumes out and I said, Lord, send me to the right job. And I actually put a time on it, a date when I wanted to hear from the company, and I put a salary on it. And it came on that day and it came $250 more than what I requested. So I'm like, okay, Doc, this is it.
You're speaking my language. Yes.
So
Yes.
it was until I started to understand who I was.
Mm-hmm.
It's at that moment when I was able to go into my male dominated industry and actually operate as the Christian woman that God created me to be. It wasn't easy, no, but it made a lot more sense because I knew who I was and I wasn't then blaming the status quo. I wasn't blaming what they were doing.
Right. Right. So good. So there's an equation that I learned from my Canfield training. So as a success principles trainer, is E plus R equals O. E stands for the event. O stands for the outcome. And most people just live with those two letters. Event happens. This must be my outcome. And what they don't realize is the R, which is our responsibility, taking 100% responsibility, which is our response, actually carries more weight on our outcome. And what I'm hearing you say is like nothing changed in the job, nothing changed, but you declared like that day and you talk to the cashier differently, like how you
Yes.
decided to show up. You had a mind shift. Now, what did change was politically there was a new president. However, you made that decision. Your life, nothing had changed from the day before, but
Exactly.
you decided to take that information and respond, and then your outcome was exactly as you desired. So I love that. One thing that I didn't mention at the beginning as well, and I would love to hear about this from you as well, because the last couple of interviews I've just been doing with the podcast have been about roles and like roles as a mother, roles as a father, roles as a Christian woman working outside the home and the struggle between do I stay home with babies or do I go out to work and all the things. And one of the things that you shared with me was that you were single And so wondering about some of that in terms of your thoughts around that. Maybe have you had, I don't know, have you had any challenges around societal ways of viewing that and how you've reconciled that as well? Would you share that?
Sure, absolutely. So being a single female, at times I received, I guess you could say, a little bit of criticism from Christians who were like, "Hey, the expectation is that you will at some point settle down, get married," because I've never been married, get married, have kids, and forget all this career stuff. And I can remember, getting pushback and people saying, Christians saying to me, "Well, the reason you're single is because you spent too much time focused on your career." And I'm like, "No, that's not true." And they say, "Oh, well, you're too strong." Which, when I would hear words like "you're too strong," I think as I look back, I probably did put up a defense a little bit because that was the same language that I would hear in male dominant industries. When you're too strong, then you're aggressive or you're angry. And I'm like, wait a minute. I don't want Christians telling me I'm too strong because I need to be. Not in a negative manner, but I need to stick up for myself because I'm single. So I need to stick up for myself in the workplace and I need to stick up for myself outside of the workplace, even just going to see the mechanic who may, try to take advantage of me and think I don't know anything, about a car, et cetera. And that happened before. So again, I go back to always understanding who I am. And there's times I didn't understand who I was. I can remember, sitting in my room one time just saying, "Hey, what is it that makes you happy? When is the last time you had a belly laugh and what triggered it?" And I had to think about it. I'm like, "Okay, what does make me laugh?" And most of the time it was simple things and being around my family or, my puppy or whatever. But even getting down to reminding myself that these are the things that make you happy. These are the things that motivate you. This is why you do what you do. Always coming back to that and then, looking at how God sees me and understanding my God identity. So there's been pressure as a single woman, people expecting me to be married. And I'm like, guys, it wasn't because I was too focused on a career, too focused on this. I do believe that God has ordered my steps and He chose for me the single life, which I accepted that.
Oh, I know someone listening here needed to hear that. So that's just incredible. And I think even if you are single and that you have been married and now you're finding yourself single as a widow or divorced, I know Stephanie's going to be your lady you're going to want to talk to and have as your coach because of all the things you just said, and that strength is not necessarily a masculine way of being, that we can be strong women. And I heard this quote yesterday, when good women make good money, they do incredible things.
I like that.
Isn't that great? And I
Yes,
was
I
like,
like that.
yeah. Like, how many wealthy women do you know who are changing the world? Because this is what we do as women, is that we take our money and we support others with it. We create not-for-profits, we're giving back to charities. Like, there's so many incredibly wealthy women. So that takes strength.
Yes,
That takes leadership. That takes power in the feminine way. And so yeah, just love that. So thanks for sharing that.
absolutely.
And so now I'd love to just talk for a few minutes also about expressing your faith, expressing, like, being a believer in the workplace. And what my experience has been as a Canadian, uh, compared to when I've visited in the United States. I actually grew up in the States until I was 10 years old. But is that it feels like it's more of a norm, a more common. But I do know with politics right now, things are very polarized, and I'm seeing that more and more in the United States as well. In fact, people, when I meet them online, they're not even saying the word Christian; they're saying believer, versus
Yes.
Christian, because Christian's carrying like a political connotation, which is very interesting. So yeah, I'm curious, what has been your experience around expressing faith and supporting other women to do so?
Absolutely. So for me, it is more about being the Christian than actually always communicate it. So I always try to, you know, have those same behaviors that I would as a Christian in the workplace as I would outside. So, for example, I'm not, as part of my Christian faith, I'm not one that parties in bars and that type of thing. I can remember, traveling where a lot of times it was like, "Hey, we're gonna eat dinner and we're gonna go to the bar afterwards." And so my comment to that, especially, out of the country, people would say, "Hey, well, you're out of the country." So, as they would have the saying, "What's done in Vegas stays in Vegas," that type of
Yeah.
thing.
Hmm.
And I should know my lifestyle and what I do, even outside of the United States, is the same. And I love that it got to the place where they knew my lifestyle. And so the norm became, hey, let's eat dinner. Somebody walk Stephanie back to her hotel and then we'll go party. I didn't have to say that. That just became the norm. And there were other things, that I hold as part of my Christian faith that people begin to see and they begin to ask questions. So it's like, hey, if they ask me the question about Christianity, then I'm going to answer. I can remember people, seeing me just doing something simple as praying over my food.
Hmm.
And then, they saw that, and I didn't have this big disruption. Everyone stop, we got to pray over the food. But I would just do it, and they would notice that. And I can remember people saying, hey, I noticed that you prayed over your food. My grandma is sick. Will you say a prayer for her? So just really showing up and being the Christian. Even I can remember there was a meeting I had with an executive, and literally he ripped me up one side and down the other to the point where he told my director, I made a huge mistake today. And so my response inside, I was ready to do the same to him. But you have to ask yourself the question, what would Jesus do in this situation?
Hmm.
And so I believe I handled it correctly. He actually called and apologized to me, which had never happened. And so just showing up and being a Christian, having the fruit of the Spirit, letting them see it. And when they ask the question, then I point back to, hey, it comes to my beliefs. It comes to my Christian beliefs. This is what I do. Da 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 da. So really looking for opportunities where I could be so that they can ask, they can see, and then they can ask, hey, what is that? What is it about you? What is different? And that has worked for me a lot.
Mm-hmm. Uh, think about that children's song that they will know us by our love.
Yes.
It's like love
Yes.
is so powerful. I mean, it's easy to resist when, like you said, you just wanted to retaliate and just give back the same, which you would have been within the right to do so. But
Yes.
to turn the other cheek and to give love when anger is expected, that
Absolutely.
takes faith and commitment and the working of the Holy Spirit. Like there's no other
Absolutely.
explanation because that's supernatural.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what they're looking for. I mean, we can declare and say, hey, we're Christians. And once you put that label on yourself, then they're going to look to see what that means. And so it's every day, in my mindset, and I actually pray it before I leave home. Lord, help me to be a light. Help me to be who you want me to be so that they can see you in my life.
Mm, it's a beautiful prayer. So, what's a book that you're reading right now, or what are you studying right now?
There's a few different ones. So I'm just finishing up this one book, and it's actually called Rodentivity. And it talks about purpose and it talks about setting boundaries and putting the right things into perspective. And then I'm also reading with that one with the group Crucial Conversations.
Mm.
And that one is talking about, how to stay in the conversation, how to show up as yourself, but how to have those conversations that are difficult to have in a team and in a group, etc. So it's really those two that I'm focusing on right now.
Yeah, and
I have a
that's
couple of them.
I didn't know this, but it's a beautiful bridge into the work that you're doing, which makes sense because you say that you help women live purpose-driven lives.
Yes.
professionally and personally. And I love that you've got that both professionally and personally, because that's what I do with vision boards as well. Is like people will say, "Oh, Deb, can I just," especially leaders, ambitious women like you and I are like, "I just want to create a professional board." I'm like, "Ooh, that's not how we are. We're not siloed into one or the other." And in fact, you've probably done the wheel of life where one side of that wheel is lopsided. It's not moving very fast. So we get to look at all those areas. So tell me a bit about, and the listener, about your programs and how you help women live their purpose driven life.
So I basically focus on four things. Number one, I start with identity. Because a lot of women don't know who they are. When you ask them that question, they talk about what they do, they talk about their profession, but they don't really understand who they are. I can remember there was a divorcee I was talking to, and she had a beautiful family, and unfortunately things didn't work out. And she said to me, she said, my child asked me, what is my favorite color? And she said I couldn't answer.
Mm.
And I just thought, wow, something that basic. So we really dive deep into identity, and understanding who they are in Christ. Then we talk about their purpose and not just their career. As you said, we talk about their calling plus their career because you can't separate the two. And a lot of times people wonder, can you have professionalism and your faith? Can they coexist? And I go hard into the coexisting of both of those and bringing harmony versus balance because balance is a myth. And then we talk about some of the internal barriers. And, those are some of the limiting beliefs. Those are even some of the quote unquote imposter syndrome, which a lot of times will say, yeah, that's what I have. But is it really imposter syndrome or is it a season of growth? Because it may not be imposter syndrome. It may just be that, hey, you are growing. And as you are growing, you're learning to do that. So you're not faking it, you're just growing. So we talk about some of those internal beliefs. And then the last piece is we talk about implementation. We create strategies because you probably can attest to the fact that you've been in programs or going to conferences. You have all this material and it's sitting in a pile because now that you're home, you're like, what do I do with this? It's almost overwhelming. So we take the materials from the program and we apply those to a strategy that we actually work through to see results as she's transformed.
Brilliant, brilliant. It's very similar to what I help my clients do, which, of course, that is the formula. It's really understanding your why and your purpose. And yeah, that really hurts my heart to hear that she had lost her way, her identity so much she didn't even know what her favorite color was. And so,
Yeah.
bringing people back to their inner child, to their playful little one who wasn't afraid to dream and to be whoever they wanted to be, and said their favorite color was purple or whatever, that was really
Yes.
playful. I love that. So, how can people get a hold of you, Stephanie?
So I am, of course, in social media. I am on LinkedIn. That's where I'm starting to spend more of my time. I also have a website, herauthenticity.com. Usually those are the two big ways.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes as well. So herauthenticity.com.
Correct.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll do that so people can reach out to you and continue this conversation. You're definitely going to want to check in with Stephanie. She's got so much to offer, so much experience, and she is who she says she is. I've met her in person, as I said, and I had to say, you were there with your sister, and when you talked about laughing and belly laughing, like my sister and I, we laugh to where you don't actually hear a sound anymore. That kind of laughing where it's like,
Yes.
like you're not even like, it's just because you're beyond even like making the sound, and like we're crying because we're laughing so hard. And then you tell ask us 10 minutes later what we were laughing about. We don't even know, but
Yes.
you just can give me a look and I just go into hysterics with her because there's so much history. So I love this inspiration of laughing more, and yeah, and just showing up strong and being in your identity of Christ, and knowing that we get to continue to move forward in his purpose for our lives. So are there any last words you want to leave our listener with?
I would just say, don't be afraid to understand who you are. because that's a scary path for a lot of people. When you tell people, "Hey, just be you," a lot of times people, women are like, "I don't want to because I don't want anyone to see that." But it's okay for people to see you, and it's even okay if they have an opinion about you that's not favorable, because that doesn't change who you are,
Mm.
and that doesn't change the way that God sees you. So show up, be strong, be that unique, authentic woman that God created you to be, and you can conquer the world.
Yes. We need to just freeze that little piece. Maybe we will. Maybe that'll be our little tag for this call. Amazing. Thank you so much, Stephanie. It was great having you here.
Thank you.
And for my listener, don't forget to dare to declare. Today, we've delved into the realm of manifesting giants, exploring the power of declaring our desires to the universe with unapologetic boldness. But before we bid adieu, I have a little something special to share with all of you dreamers out there. Introducing the Dare to Declare Vision Board magazine and online DIY Vision Board course, your ticket to manifesting greatness in style. Picture this: flipping through pages filled with inspiring images, empowering quotes, and step-by-step guides to help you create the vision board of your dreams. Whether you're yearning for that spacious condo with a view, or a love that sets your soul on fire, our magazine is here to guide you every step of the way. Dive deep into the art of manifesting with our exclusive online DIY vision board course. Led by manifesting expert, yes, yours truly, and seasoned dreamers, this course will teach you the ins and outs of creating a vision board that speaks to your heart and soul. So what are you waiting for? Join the ranks of the manifesting giants and dare to declare your wildest dreams to the universe. Head over to our website, debbisluice.com, and grab your copy of the Dare to Declare Vision Board magazine and enroll in our online DIY Vision Board course today. Until next time, keep dreaming big and daring to declare, because in the world of manifesting, the sky's the limit.